Hey everybody, and welcome to another exciting webinar here with our good friends over at Hotel Business. I'm excited that you are all spending time with us today. Love doing these Hotel Business Hot Topic sessions, our virtual panel series. I'm Glenn Haussman. You might know me from hosting the No Vacancy podcast or being at a hospitality event near you. I want to thank our friends over at Mohegan Sun for allowing me to stay late today so I could do this. I was just at an industry conference and I just had a great talk with somebody, with an executive here at Mohegan Sun that's going to help inform today's conversation. Just so you all know, today's session is going to run for just about an hour, and you out there can all ask questions. Now, if you know me, I could talk, I could ask questions, but I want to know what you are out there thinking, because this session is designed to help get you actionable insights so you can be more successful in your business. And that means asking the things that you are curious about of our panelists of experts. So this article will also appear in the November issue of Hotel Business Magazine, as well as social media sites, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., etc. Yeah, I said Twitter. I didn't change it to X. And it's also being recorded. It'll be available on demand at hotelbusiness.com and also on my No Vacancy podcast feed. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, DirecTV, for today's panel discussion. And it really falls in line with what I've been thinking about bringing humanity into technology. When I was fortunate enough to be the keynote speaker at this year's high-tech event, that was the fundamental basis of this. How do we keep people in this incredible business of hospitality when technology has a chance of overrunning us? So when it's done right, technology can really powerfully reshape customer interactions, right? Because you're empowering their customer experience, enhancing critical human interactions that really make everything magical. And that is one of the messages I heard today at Mohegan Sun in my interview. It's all about freeing up people so people can service people. I want to thank our amazing panel for being here today. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I get to introduce to you. I got Dorothy Dowling with DEI Associates and Horwath. I got Matt Schwartz, Chief Technology Officer with Sage Hospitality Group. Dina Bellon, President of Stay Pineapple Hotels. And Kimberly Twiggs with DirecTV. Hey, how y'all doing today?
Great.
Great.
It is so great to see all of you. So, Kim, normally I get some sort of great observation from our guests, but you've been putting together this awesome study that's really giving us insights to today's traveler. And I want you to go into it, but I'd be curious if you could also tell us a little bit about how those traveler habits have changed. And are we at a point where we could really call these changes permanent?
Yeah, I think so. So the survey data this year is really reinforcing what we've seen growing every year out of the pandemic, which is that travel is coming back. I was actually at an AHLA event in Chicago just this week where STR presented the same data. RevPAR is up, occupancy is holding strong. Things are looking really good, and our data backs that in the guest media research survey that we did this year. So we're seeing that that hotel guests are increasing their amount of time on the road. So in 2023, 13.4 nights in hotels average per year versus 9.8 nights on average in 2022. So we see that propensity to get back out on the road more and spend more nights in hotels continues to grow. We've also
By the
seen
way, that's
leisure
what Dina
travel
did last week, I think, alone.
She was on the road 13.4 nights just last week. Yeah,
That's a long
I think
week.
you're right.
Sorry, Kim.
Yeah.
Go on.
So Dina was probably on the road for work last week, which we all can relate to. Business travel is up 30% versus last year, which is good. Business
Really?
is slower to recover than leisure travel was, but even leisure is continuing to grow. And so we see our leisure travelers on the road, that's back up 40% more than it was in 2022. So we're really seeing excitement around travel. It's not the, what were we calling it, Glenn? It was like the pent up demand kind of
Revenge travel.
Revenge travel. Yes, that was happening right out of the pandemic. Now things seem to be taking on a more normal cadence, and we're seeing everyone back on the road just enjoying their time, and particularly on the leisure side, but also business, which is really, really good news.
That is really good news. Also, group business has been up, and everything seems to be in this nice place where they're all interweaving properly. For example, over here at Mohegan Sun, we talked a little bit about how you're getting great group business and that leisure mix and doing things to kind of bring both of them together. Matt, I'll go to you. How are you seeing things at your collection of boutique properties?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Across the Sage portfolio, which runs coast to coast, Boston to LA, and that kind of points in between, we're seeing a lot more travel. As Kim said, people are traveling more, they're traveling longer, they're here for group, they're here for business travel. And really what we're trying to do is offer, you see the slogan behind me, enriching lives one experience at a time. If I'm spending, like Kim said, if I'm going from 9 nights to 13 nights and I'm more nights away from home, we're trying to make sure that those nights that you're away from home are compelling, where the experience is. It used to be, think about your home experience. At home, you don't worry about check-in. You don't worry about TV. You don't worry about Wi-Fi. You don't worry about hot water. You don't worry about noise, potentially from your neighbor. You don't worry about heating and cooling. There's all these things you don't worry about. And then you show up at a hotel. And suddenly, most travelers are like, this isn't going to be as good. At Sage, we always think about, we don't want guests to say, the bar is here, I just want it to be as good at home. We want it to be better. That's the whole point of the experience. And so we look at lots of different ways to enrich the guest stay while they're there to say, this is better than home. And if they can take something away from their experience at our hotel and say, gosh, I wish I could have that at my house, that's the win.
Yeah, so, with people staying longer, that means that you've really got to up the ante, particularly since hotel rates are so lofty right now. Not to say that owners aren't suffering out there, because those margins have been getting thinner. But as far as consumer perception is, they want to make sure that those experiences are maximized when they're paying high dollar rates. Now, Dina, at Stay Pineapple Hotels, you've got great personality over there. Maybe spend a moment telling us what your defining factors are, how it makes you different, and then talk about the types of travelers you're seeing come through your doors.
Yeah, 100%. So our portfolio is also kind of coast to coast, Seattle to New York, and all mostly urban city center kind of locations. So under 150 rooms, boutique, hyper-personalized service. I think the topic today is going to be really interesting because a lot of the questions around technology are, how are we providing very relationship-based, hyper-personalized, Lacey at the Maxwell, and you always talk to her when you check in or throughout your stay, kind of experiences when technology is becoming such an integral part of our business as well. And how are you balancing that? For us, I think we're seeing great growth. Urban city centers still have not 100% recovered from the pandemic. And so we still have some room, not a lot, but 5% here or there, except in 2 cities we're in, San Francisco and Portland, are still struggling. But Seattle, San Diego, New York, Boston, Chicago is doing amazing things right now. So I think overall the market is providing us the tailwinds that we need to innovate and invest in what we need to invest in to provide those amazing guest experiences.
Dorothy, I'm going to have a question for you in 1 second, but I'm curious, Dina, in those urban centers, what is the makeup of the people visiting your hotel? Are you finding a lot of different age groups and demographics coming to city centers that might be a little bit different than a roadside inn in the middle of the country?
Yeah, for us, for sure. And I'll mention that our portfolio, or our brand in particular, is focused around really inclusivity of everybody. So our guest profile is the young at heart, and the seeker of the great and different. That's not an age group, that's not a sex, that's not in anything, right? And so what
you're really talking about, though, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is more the idea of a psychographic as a demographic. Right. And that's the way we think about ourselves in our heads. as opposed to something that were assigned by someone outside of our body. Sorry, Dina, please continue.
No, that's a super articulate way to say it. We don't say our customers make $127,000 to $127,500 and all of that. And I think that's the demographic for the urban cores. There's a lot of different people coming for a lot of different reasons. Group business is definitely returning. We're not a big group hotel brand because our hotels are small, but we see a lot of room booking based off of groups that are coming into town. So yeah, all of it's coming back and we're super excited about it. Conventions are coming back. We've had probably the best convention season we've seen in Chicago since 2019, which has been really great.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that. Well needed over there. Dorothy, so we're starting to get a picture that there's a lot of different types of travelers that are out there, right? And I'm finding that younger travelers, there's much more of a demographic and psychographic mix of travelers. And working with DEI associates, how are you thinking about the guests that are coming there and how hotels might start to be able to think about appealing to all their customers that they may not be used to seeing?
Well, I think Dina, characterized more from a lifestyle profiling, Glenn, and I think that's where a lot of people are really focused on. I still really focus on numbers, and 70% of the wealth, in particular in the U.S., is in that boomer generation. They are definitely the young at heart that Dina referenced. So it is about understanding how to really optimize some of that opportunity, particularly as most of us still have inventory midweek to sell. The weekends have had a very strong recovery. The small, medium business has had a very strong recovery. You referenced group. All of those have come back. I still think business travel is still slightly soft and leisure travel is leveling out, as Kim had said. So we've got to focus on really how do we win those customers and how do we really optimize some of the experiences to really keep them coming back and really driving length of stay, because length of stay really hasn't grown. It's still, runs in that 1.6 to 1.8 framing. So it is around a very short stay transaction, and for us to really hopefully get an extra room night out of all those customers. So I guess what I'm coming back to is that the psychographics, Gen Z is certainly going to be equivalent size to boomers. It's just that right now they don't have the dollars to really invest. And so the stay patterns at hotels haven't been fully materialized yet with that generation. I mean, the youngest is 12. They're still on their parents' dime.
Yeah, totally. And I've got a Gen Zer that's still on my dime, and thankful he's overseas right now, and he's going to be taking a week in another country after he's done staying in hostels. So thank goodness I don't have to worry about the big fees. But Matt, I gotta ask you. With so many different people coming and Gen Z, now the equivalent size of boomers, we used to always hear, gray is the new gold. That's changing now. It's still a profitable category, but you have to think about other stakeholders. Gen Z may not necessarily be coming through your doors today, but there's probably a shift that you're seeing. So how are you seeing traveler profiles change over the last few years, particularly with the rise of digital and mobile technology and a shifting age group?
No, great question, Glenn. It's really interesting. We talked coming out of the pandemic about more leisure travel. As more folks are working remote or from home, they want to get out, they want to reconnect with their work peers. So they're meeting in destinations, they're having work meetings, and now they're bringing their family with you. I think about, my own travel, I call them workcations, where it's, you're doing some work, you're also trying to find a way like, hey, here's a new city that I haven't been with the family. And I think we're seeing more and more of these kind of creative. They're not your standard cookie cutter vanilla travel anymore. There's all these little nuanced aspects to things, even with group, right? So people are looking for these special, whether it's a surprise and delight with a guest, whether it's something unique with a group that you're trying to do. And from a technology perspective at Sage, what we're really trying to do is say, how can we use technology to enhance that experience? We're not trying to dominate the experience, we're trying to enhance it. So, for example, you mentioned the check-in. As this younger generation comes in, they typically walk in the front door looking like this. And you might not see that I'm looking down at my phone. That's typically how they walk in, right? And when the
Be
cell
fair,
phone,
I see a lot of other generations doing that too. Don't want
that's
to.
right. It's not just the, and really what matters is, is there cell phone connectivity? Is there Wi-Fi?
Yep.
Can I still game? Can I still use social media? Can I still connect with my friends? What does that look like? And that is oftentimes the first impression. And so one of the things we've been working on is making sure that that cell connectivity doesn't drop when you walk in, particularly with new building standards, right? So a lot of times that cell connectivity drops off with 5G, but that connectivity is oftentimes the younger generation, the first experience they have. And while it may prompt them to look up, we want them looking up for the right reason.
Yeah, for sure. And when they look up, that's when you have the opportunity to bring the humanity back into it by using, hopefully, somebody that's now not having to service another customer at the front desk can have and start to create a meaningful interaction. Are you seeing the ability to kind of shift resources at this point because of technology to enhance that one-on-one service?
Definitely. And I'm glad you brought up the front desk. We don't typically think of our front desk associates as front desks. We think of them as the best Airbnb host, right? When someone is new to that city, you want to know not just about the hotel, but tell me about the area. Where can I go for a walk? Where can I get a cocktail? Where can I get a coffee? Where can I get, where's that meal? It's kind of the host, the front desk is really now the concierge, front desk, and your kind of local guide. And we really want that experience to not feel transactional. We don't want someone behind the desk just, clacking away at keys. We want them having a conversation. Hey, how's it? But also recognizing there's a lot of EQ, that emotional IQ built in to say, gosh, this person's flight was delayed. They're tired. They don't want the 10-minute spiel. I'll have that key ready for them and just say, you know what? Come by tomorrow morning. I'll get you a coffee and I'll give you the spiel then. And I think that's something with the staff. That's the humanity you're talking about, right? Let the technology remove as much friction as possible, but have that humanity to have that EQ about understanding where that guest is, be in their shoes, if you will.
That's very interesting. Dina, I would like to ask you to follow up on this because of that location thing, getting to know the area. One of the problems that I've had historically staying at hotels, and I've never stayed at one of Dina's hotels, but I plan to very soon, is that I'd say, hey, where is, asking for that particular recommendation. And a lot of employees don't live in the area. And I used to get blank stares or just like, oh, and like make me the problem. How do you make sure that doesn't happen in your hotels?
Well, first of all, we hire the right people. We really, in our screening process, we screen for EQ. I love that, Matt. We use it all the time. We really screen for the person and is plugged in. I can teach you how to use, the PMS system. In fact, I'd rather you not bring your bad habits with you. I would love to have you engage with our customers instead. And removing transaction, for us, technology is 100% an employee-based methodology. We will never have kiosks in our lobbies. And the person that explained it to me the best was one of our general managers. I was asking her about the idea, and she said to me, Dina, that would be horrific. If people can come in and check in at the kiosk, I have no opportunity to engage with them and get to know them and understand them so I can surprise and delight them or provide them hyper-personalized service or figure out a curated experience for them. A lot of what we do is proactive, not waiting for the guests to ask for something, but know enough about them to suggest things before they even know they want them. And to be able to do that, you really have to have actionable data about your guests. Now, I think what's really interesting there is the shift from, with all the restrictions and privacy concerns today, really zero-party data is where I think you have to go with this kind of very actionable data. And that is what consumers directly provide you, right? You either in a conversation with a team member at the hotel or in a survey or in a way in which we ask the guests. So if we know that you always travel with Lucy, your little puppy dog, and Lucy loves the little soft, chewy treats and not the hard treats. And you like Lucy on an all vegetarian diet and no meat. And Lucy likes, the bubbly water and not the plain water. Then we can make sure that that's all in your room. We know that, we've got that data, and we can personalize those experiences for you.
All right, Dina, I've been hearing this for a lot of years from a lot of.
I know.
So how are you actually capturing that told information to turn it into an actionable insight? I could barely remember when someone hands me their business card that I'm supposed to do XYZ after then talking to 3 people, so you getting your associates to make it happen and create that magic.
Well, first of all, it's not a light switch. It's a process.
Right.
But the first thing we're doing is this year we invested a lot of money in changing out our entire tech stack. So we switched our PMS, our POS, our housekeeping module. We just did a massive change out so that, because we were finding we had all these great ideas like I'm talking about, but we couldn't implement them because we were having to do workarounds around our technology. And that's the opposite of what we need. Hoteliers need to demand from their tech partners that they're supporting their processes. We're not forcing or working around our technology providers to try to achieve what we want to achieve. We need to be working in concert, side by side, to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, which means you need tech providers that are nimble, capable, and willing to adjust and work with you and not just say, well, this is what you get, it's out of the box. Everybody else does it that way. Well, we're not everybody else.
Right. I'm starting to see an overarching theme here of finding ways to utilize technology to enhance human-to-human connections. And one group that I think is really great with understanding technology is that younger Gen Z generation. But Dorothy, I don't know if you have insights into that generation in particular, but Matt was talking about, interpersonal communications. I'm just curious because I say this coming as a parent of 2 20-year-olds that were teenagers when during COVID. Has that potentially created some unintended consequences of interpersonal communication challenges because they're so used to screens rather than people? I mean, that's my hunch. Matt is suggesting yes, but I'll let you speak first, Dorothy.
Well, yes, I think that you've highlighted a point that has been fairly well documented, Glenn, in terms of social skills. That's why when Dina said that they actually hire for that kind of competency, I think it's critically important. But I'm sure many saw the article this past week about how many Gen Zs are actually being fired because of their lack of social skills, part of which has been all of the issues that you spoke about through COVID and just their technology focus. So I do think as we think about our industry, it's not just about hiring for that kind of skill. I do think that there's got to be this leveling up in terms of really building some of these social skill competencies. And there's got to be a lot more intentionality from an employer perspective in terms of understanding that gap and really building out the right kind of development programs for our employees. I don't think it's an issue on willingness. I just think it's an issue on lack of development in that area that we have
that's
to put
that's exactly why I phrased it with the COVID interruption that's over there.
Sure.
Because I do think, and I'm seeing a lot on the road, it's not the first generation that's doing it. Every new generation seems to be demonized by the oldest generation or two, just because it's different. And I think once you hit the 40-ish range, you start to become disconnected from popular culture and those other things. So it creates a generational divide that sometimes we need a translator to get through. Kim, I'm definitely going to come back to you in a second, but Matt, you've been head nodding so much, I got to let you talk.
Yeah, I'm still harped back on Dina's comment about the horrific with the kiosk, because I think, it's very interesting. We don't think of it as much as kind of age generational as much it is choice, right? We're not a one size fits all company. We're not a one size fits all experience. When you go to the airport, You can do standard check-in, you can do pre-check, you can do clear. And that is a
and also you can do digital now
and
at
digital
places like LaGuardia. Yeah,
and that's a continuum of. And then I think that and when you think about that mirror to hospitality, that is a continuum of technology. If you want standard and talk to someone with the TSA agent, that's fine. If you want to be rewarded for the loyalty of TSA, and if you want to have clear and just have the, the bio piece of it, that's fine. And so I think that is where we're going to be going in hospitality. There will be folks who want to check in and not talk to someone, just like in the clear. And I just want you to scan my eyes and I want to check in because I've been here 5 times and I want it as smooth as possible, just like at the airport. I just want to get to my gate. And then there's going to be people who, it's their first time. They don't travel that often. They want to have that human connection. Maybe that's generational. Maybe it's not. There are probably just as many teenagers. I have 2 teenagers. Sometimes they want to talk to people and sometimes they don't. They're just kind of moody teenagers. And I think
I'm a moody 50-something because it's absolutely true. Because some days I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm like, there's 2 people ahead of me online and I'm going to freak out. Other times I'm like, hey, yeah, let's have a conversation with someone for 20 minutes and forget that there's anyone behind you online, So I run the panoply of personalities, and that is that choice thing that we need to think about. Kim, I want to get it back to you. Matt said something really interesting before when he was talking about Wi-Fi. He also mentioned gaming, which means people are playing at games, and I'm smart enough to know, because of my kids, that latency, it might be an issue. So how are we, generally speaking, with Wi-Fi? I just want to thank Mohegan Sun for this amazing Wi-Fi here. It is one of the best hotel Wi-Fis I've seen. But how are you seeing Wi-Fi overall? Where are we with that after a couple of decades? And what's the state of things?
You're right. It's definitely been an area of focus. So you would think we'd be reaching near perfection at this point. But, what the survey data is showing us is that I'm really grateful that you're having an amazing experience there at Mohegan. I think for basic things like email, we've got, bandwidth infrastructure up to a point where it's really sufficient. I think where we're starting to see it is in things like gaming and in even streaming entertainment. The Wi-Fi, that's generally available isn't sufficient across U.S. hotels. And so I know this is a big area of focus for technologists in the hotelier community is how do we make sure that we're keeping up with the demand for all of these, various services over and above just general search and discovery and email. So the data that we collected this year said that 75% of guests surveyed reported that in-room Wi-Fi was too weak to stream. That's a huge number, right? 3/4 of guests said they tried.
75%?
Yeah, said it was too weak to stream. 75% of respondents, and so and 85%. I'm surprised it's not 100. Said that that's actually really frustrating during their stay. And so I think this is, to your point. We've gotten the basics down, but now it's time to make sure that we're accommodating for things that some of these new travelers, you mentioned gaming, are interested in. When we look at the difference between travelers from a generational perspective and what they prioritize, you look at this same survey data saying that guests ages 21 to 49, 59% of them would choose a hotel if it offered cloud gaming or the capability to participate in their gaming habits. 59% ages 21 to 49 versus 19% ages 50 and over. And I think so much of what all 3 of you have been talking about in this discussion is this is like the biggest challenge I think facing hoteliers today is you're having to, accommodate all of these different needs, right? So you've got, more traditional travelers, the boomers, Dorothy pointed out 70%. Still make up, the buying population and the overwhelming majority of our hotel stays. They're consuming traditional media. They're, doing things that a lot of the technology in our hotels actually is suitable for. But when you're trying to bring in, these newer things like logging into streaming, getting access to your streaming music accounts, cloud gaming, casting, all of those things, it requires an enhanced broadband experience, and that's a big requirement right now across all hotels.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. In the hospitality industry, we've been talking about for years and years how people are bringing multiple devices along with them. And if you have multiple people in a room, they're all using multiple devices. But now it's becoming even more complex because the way that they're using the internet is not the same it was just a few years ago. Matt, I know you're head nodding again, so I want to hear from you. And then Tina, I want to hear back from you again. So Matt?
Yeah, like I said, when I travel with my two teenagers, the first thing they do is connect to the Wi-Fi.
Yep.
The second thing they do is plug in. And I will tell you, second only, it's interesting that Kim mentioned the 75%. Second only to the frustration of not having good Wi-Fi is not having the right outlets. And the right outlets,
say enough access to Mountain Dew, but okay.
Right? Yeah. I mean, because the people now are traveling with USB-A, USB-C. They were looking for wireless charging. Maybe they don't even have their plug. And so just those two basic things of the connectivity and then the powering are big differentiators. But it's, when my two teenagers are in the same room, they want to stream different things. They don't want to watch one thing on the big TV. And so I'm straight on with Kim. That is so critical that you have sufficient bandwidth to each individual guest room and all of the common areas of the hotel, whether it's the bar, the restaurant, the pool. And so many hotels fall short on that experience. That's a promise that we make to, we're a lifestyle hospitality company. It's a promise that once again, this will be no worse and hopefully better than what you have at home. And in order to do that, you have to have, fiber to the guest room or 1 gig or 10 gig experiences. And so many hotels fall flat on that.
And I've been talking about for years and years that the internet is as much of a utility as water and power. Dina, you're in cities, and it makes things a lot more complicated. How are you thinking about empowering guest experiences by making sure that they have the tools to enjoy the stay with technology under their own rules?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have taken a very proactive approach around technology. We started doing streaming services with Google 6 years ago, back when nobody even knew what it was. I wish for those days, though, because it was, 5% of the population of the hotel wanted to stream because it was only the really techie people that were into it because nobody else knew about it. So we got lots of rave reviews about it. But now we've got, 70% of the guests are wanting to connect to our streaming platform. We also did a massive changeover of our infrastructure and streaming platform this year, and it's been a big success. It's because we were having, I think when you're an early adopter, sometimes you can hold on too long. So we held on to that strategy for 6 years, and 6 years in, we're like, oh, wait a minute, we got passed up. So we had to do a whole nother, and 6 years. When did 6 years become a long period of time? That's what I want to know.
That's my parents paying for my college. That's why.
Yeah, it's like, but yeah, I mean, it is an absolute 100% expectation, and is one of the things that I think that all hotels get, large complaints about, and even if you're really well, there's so many little things that can break along the way. Like, I have a complicated name. My last name is Balan-Sayer. Some systems won't take the hyphen. Sometimes I make the reservation with Balan. Sometimes I make it with Balan-Sayer. I usually have to type in 3 or 4 times before I get the right login into anybody's system, right? And so there's so many things that the guests can make a mistake on as well, that we then need to be able to solve for. So again, I go back to EQ. The team members need to be able to handle that, because sending them off to a 1-800 number that is being answered in Singapore is not a solution. Like, I need to be able to go down to the front desk and talk to a human being that can help me. And I want to make one other point based on what Matt said a few minutes ago about, I think there is a very distinct difference between hotels that are looking at technology from I want to provide you whatever option you want, which is a really good approach. I think it's a great approach. We've had a lot of conversation about that here. we have decided to take a point of view instead. And again, we're boutique hotels. I don't have 500 room hotels that I'm trying to fill up. So I can take a point of view, and our point of view is, if you're a tech savvy person, I want to take all the transaction off of the experience on property. So I want to make sure that you're checked in. We know that you're coming. We know what kind of room you want. We know what kind of pillows you want. We know that you're bringing your puppy dog. We know everything beforehand. Pre-arrival concierge is becoming more and more and more important, because if we know all of that before you get there, then I can, with my EQ, recognize all I need to do is hand you your guest room key because you got in late, your flight's late, you don't want to talk to me, and send you up to your room and chit chat with you in the morning. Or I can have that conversation. But either way, I've removed the transaction off of the people so that the people have time to walk you to the elevator, to grab your bag, to get you a soda, to do whatever it is that is going to make your day better. I see you walk in and you're tired and it's late. I'm going to say, would you like a beer? And I'll run over to the bar and get you one, right? Like, that's what relationship-based and hyper-personalized service does.
It also gets me to pretend I'm tired every time I walk into a hotel. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Tina, for a bad joke. Yeah,
I'm good.
All right. So, Dorothy, could you try to connect the dots with us a little bit here when you're talking about people, and maybe think about, Tina, it's great that she gets to have a point of view. Matt's point of view is a little bit wider, but what if you're thinking about budgets and you're trying to satisfy all types of customers? Are you finding any intergenerational parallels that might be a good place to start when thinking about people and people?
Well, I like the way that you spoke about things, Glenn, is that I don't think it's really demographics anymore in terms of how we profile customers. We are really profiling based on what they want, the experiences that they're seeking. So I do think it is always around sizing opportunities and understanding your fit in the market. So as Dina said, she understands the kind of hotels that she's running, the size, the location, et cetera, and she's having a point of view in terms of how to deliver on the optimum experience. I do think hoteliers have to do that, because I think we can rarely be all things to all people and execute well. So it is really understanding where we can win, where the best kind of customer fit we have, and then having a very strategic approach to marketing and customer acquisition, also customer activation. So it is the kinds of things I was talking about before in terms of trying to increase length of stay, increase frequency against the customers that are the best fit for your hotel. So that is where it is understanding. Of course, boomers represent a very large segment of the audience today that are affluent and that are traveling. Gen Z, not there yet, but we certainly have to have that focus. It is understanding the family size of the business, which still represents 50%. It's still understanding most people, 80% of Americans still come to hotels by car. It is understanding all of those kinds of things and saying, where do you fit into that ecosystem, and how do you best manage to that in terms of how you get them and how you keep them?
80% arrive by cars still.
And that has always been, I've been in this industry 42 years, Glenn. It has not shifted. Air is still a small percentage, because you think about the average customer travels 200 to 250 miles on a vacation trip. They are still regional in terms of their approach. They're going there by automobile.
That's really phenomenal. Yeah, Dina, go on.
It does matter the locale, right? That's not statistic for most of our hotels, because we're in urban city centers. In fact, our parking revenue has been dramatically declining. We're 25% under last year's parking revenue. That's in a year. In the last 5 years, we've dropped 40% in parking revenue. I'm starting to look at what do I do with underutilized parking space? Do we put in a micro theater? Do we put in a golf simulator? Like, what do we do with it? So it does. I mean, I 100% agree with you, Dorothy. That is so totally true. I just did a driving vacation, by the way. But urban city centers have certainly shifted.
For sure. And
Yeah.
that is where that's understanding of your product, your fit, your customer, and doing exactly what you're saying, Dina. It's about where can I win and what is the experience I have to deliver for those customers.
Yeah, and for some of our less experienced viewers today, a lot of times in the industry, we talk about national numbers. We throw them out. But this is such a unique business. We need to have that as a common thread to have a conversation with. But all of Dina's hotels are going to perform differently. All of Matt's hotels are going to perform differently because of the location and the nature of those specific products, et cetera, et cetera. Matt, love to get you to jump in here, see if you could follow up anything they have to say.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear from Kim too, because there's also a temporal aspect to this, and time of year matters. And I love the month of October. It's one of my favorite months here in Colorado. But just in general, if I think about travelers in October, every Saturday, guests want to watch college football. Every Sunday, they want to watch NFL. And in October, we have postseason for Major League Baseball. And so that's something that's probably common across all hotels, all geographies. Someone's in your hotel on a weekend and you're trying to get them to the hotel bar and out of their room to watch a game. That is something that we probably can all, gel around. But I'm curious from Kim on the DirecTV side, if you see any trends in this time of year.
Yeah, I think so. The one thing you left out in Colorado is leaf peeping, right, Matt? If you're not watching football, you're leaf peeping in Colorado.
Listen, I'm up on the 29th floor here in the woods of Connecticut, and in about a week, this is going to be the most incredible view. Yeah. Sorry, Kim. I got excited.
The reds, oranges, and yellows. It is a beautiful time of year, that's for sure. And I think Matt it's like a perfectly served up question. Thank you, Matt, to let me talk about sports. But I think before I do, I was loving what Dorothy said about kind of what all of these generations have in common more than we have apart. And that is something that came from the data too, which is all guests, regardless of generation, they want convenience, they want choice, and they want control. And so when you think about that from a technology perspective, that lends a whole lot of just context, I think, into where you're focusing as a hotelier, right? Because regardless of the generation of your hotel guests, those are the things that they're looking for. Matt talked a lot about choice as being that bridge that connects all the different generations, right? He used the airport example. You want to check in online, you want to check in at the kiosk, you want to check in with a person you can. Giving them choice is a way to do that. And so I think in a lot of ways, technology, if it's focused on convenience, on choice, and on control, can be a really good way for hoteliers to kind of wrap some context around where they should be focused and not. With regard to football, this is 100% our favorite time of year. And I think when you think about bringing human connection back into, not letting technology take over, but letting human connection play out, hotel lobbies and bars are a great place to bring people together, especially in local markets where, one particular team might be being celebrated. So much content available. There's, every network is engaged across the spectrum in providing football. And I think that's one of the ways as a hotelier that you can really customize an opportunity to bring people down to the bar, have bar specials on food and beverage during game time to get them out of their room, get them down to the bar to watch TV together, create that camaraderie, create that human connection, and let the hotel staff at the bar and at the front desk kind of be part of that energy that naturally comes from fandom when guests are engaging in a sports experience or a football experience. So we love that. I think that is absolutely a way that technology can bring people together. You don't want them up in their room watching the game alone, even though that's something you do make available through your TV solution. You want them down at the bar. You want them, contributing their dollars to F&B, and you also want them engaging with each other and their staff. So I think football season is a great time of year for that.
Kim, that is such a great point. And just so everybody out there realizes that streaming services are fine, but live sporting events are where it is at. Over the last few years, those numbers have surged while it seems like all other things have fallen. Also, Kim, you're right, because that's the one thing we still all watch together. Matt, earlier you talked about your teenagers wanting to watch different things. I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s, and we all watched TV together. That has kind of broken down, except during those sporting events. But Kim, being from DirecTV, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how important it is to have maybe right-sized TV screens and the right type of atmosphere that you could create in order to drive revenue while creating experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, sports is the perfect example because even the data shows that business travelers, you might think that business travelers are sort of there for a sole focus. The data shows that 63% of business travelers are still turning the TV on to tune into sports content. And so it's really, really important that we make that content available. And then to your point, the amenities with which you make it available are super important as well. So again, across all demographics, across all generations, large screen TVs, really, really important in both the guest room and in the common areas. So we show that over 73% of guests would choose a hotel based on the size of the TV in the room. With the digital information that's available, with online booking, they can see everything that's there in the hotel and the images in the guest gallery. And so large screen TVs, streaming options, casting options, again, all of that really important to delivering the right experience for the guest.
What qualifies as a large screen TV and size-wise?
I guess I don't have it in my notes here, but
no, that's fine. I'm just curious because it's vague, and I think everybody's personal definition is different. And depending on what Matt said earlier, it depends on what you have at home, right? Because I was lucky enough, I did a deal, and instead of getting cash, I got an amazing television out of it. So I'm left sometimes going to hotels going, oh, that's it. Where somebody else who wasn't so lucky to get a free TV might be like, dang, that's awesome. Matt, what do you see as a large size TV?
If you're seeing a larger screen format, north of 70-inch would be large screen format. But I do think, something that Kim said, I'd be curious to get everyone else to weigh in too, Glenn, is take that game that's happening on Sunday. So here in Denver, we're playing the Raiders, right? We have a big rivalry game happening. And I had a GM reach out to me this week and he said, Matt, how do we let people know that we're going to have this game on in the hotel bar? It used to be sometimes you could reverse PBX and you'd call every room. Hey, got something going on at 5 o'clock. Now it's, and I think, Dina talked about this with the check-in. Maybe you're mentioning it at check-in, right? But I think maybe where Dorothy's going with the generational, maybe some people just want to get the text message. Hey, at 5 o'clock, we're going to have the game on. Maybe some people, and this is something that we have at this hotel, when they connect to the Wi-Fi, the splash screen advertises. By the way, you're on the Wi-Fi, go down to the hotel bar and, happy hour is going on. But I'd be curious, just take that one idea of, and I'm with you, Glenn, there's nothing more powerful than watching a sport together and cheering and high-fiving. And how do we get the guest out of the room? And I'd be curious, there's a couple of different ways, and then maybe it's generational, maybe it's that convenience and choice that Kim talked about, but how do you notify the guest?
Matt, love that. I just got to say this one quick thing. Freaking love that idea. The idea I'm talking about is having it on the screen after you sign onto the internet. 99 out of 100 hotels I think I go to, it takes me to the website to get a room at the hotel I'm already at. I don't need a reservation. I'm sitting here. So sorry. Just had
or Glenn, if you turn on the TV to watch the game in your room, it should be the splash screen. You could be watching this with a crowd downstairs.
Yes. Yes. Mention this ad, get your first drink half price. Whatever it is to drive the people down. I'm sorry, Kim, were you gonna jump in there? I didn't realize who I cut off. Dina?
I would love to jump in because what Matt's talking about is a conversation that the industry's having. It's about total RevPAR. It's TrevPAR today, and it is about merchandising on property. And there is a lot of opportunity. To me, it's television sign-on, it's webpage sign-on, it's text messaging, it is understanding how to touch the customer across every single point of sale. It's a captive customer in their hotel. We should be looking for every opportunity, and we are not doing that well today. So I think leaning into partners like Kim can support us. That is critically important because you can power a lot of that for us and actually bring some of that sophistication up. But it is everyone understanding, and it is having the flexibility, and it is building it as a template module kind of thing to make it very dynamic that the hotel can actually update that content on the fly at the front desk or wherever that needs to be. Very few hotels are doing it well.
Yeah. Kim?
I think text messaging is actually that perfect integration between the personal touch and the technology, because so at the hotel I was just at in Chicago, I could tell I was talking to a real person. So AI is feeding some of this. Some of the push messages might be automated and not customized at first. But once that trigger happens inside that text exchange, you're talking to a real person. And so I think hotels are, I mean, it's probably 1 in 10 hotels I'm staying at right now are utilizing text. That could be so much more effective in communicating, not just that the football game is on, you know, down at the bar, but also other things that guests need. You know, whether it's late checkout or are my keys going to work when I get back up to my room, you know, you're talking to a human and they will verify for you at the front desk that that's them writing back and forth with you. I think that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Dina, how are you seeing all of this?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we need to be utilizing every platform that we have to communicate with the guest in proactive ways. I mentioned that before, trying to anticipate what they might like. And the more and more we can personalize that. So instead of potentially pushing out a generic message that come down to the bar, there's a game going on. Yeah. I'm going to push a message to Kim because the last 3 times she was at my hotel, she drank red wine. And I'm going to say, hey, we have your favorite Mark Adams bottle at half price today.
Oh, you're killing me. That's so great.
Right. And because Kim doesn't like football. So if I'm pushing her a football message, then it's going to fall on deaf ears. I don't know if you like football or not, Kim.
But Dina, your point is, I've been getting messages about golf deals for 25 years. I don't ever play golf, you know? So please continue. Sorry.
It's got to be pertinent to them, right? Like we have to get better at, if we're going to communicate with the guest proactively and dangle something in front of them, that we're dangling something in front of them that means something to them. And that's on us to do better at it and do the things that have been talked about for years, to your point, Glenn, and nobody's accomplished it.
No, but you're heading in that direction by finding ways to build a database of actionable insights through online questionnaires, in-person moments, and all of that. Just about out of time, believe it or not. So I'd love to get everybody's final thoughts. Dorothy, why don't we start with you?
Well, I'd like to close with what this conversation just had been, is that I do think we have to look at optimizing platforms across every asset to bring that information to the customer. As much as I agree with Dina in terms of a personalized message, I still think we're not using a lot of the platforms optimally to get some of the basic information out in the hotels. And I think as we think about sustainability and what customers want today, the last thing, I'm in a hotel today myself with 3 pieces of paper in front of me in terms of what some of the opportunities are. I think that all could have been on the single sign-in when I stepped on this Wi-Fi. So I will close with that.
Matt, how about you?
I would say technology has a great opportunity here. You know, think of technology as your quiver of arrows. And even something like we're just talking about here, text message makes sense for the personalization, but you don't necessarily know the guest is in the hotel. That's where maybe the splash screen of the Wi-Fi or the splash screen of the TV makes sense. And so what I would say, encourage everyone out there listening, is think of all those technologies you have, and there's not necessarily a one size fits all. Offer the guest choice. Think about communicating with them in different ways and different times and what you're trying to accomplish. And, you know, what's coming down the road with AI is just going to make us even more capable of communicating to guests at the right time, at the right location.
And that is going to be magical when that happens. Dina, some final thoughts from you, please.
Yeah, so I think my final thoughts are the one topic we didn't discuss, which is AI. We tend to be very tech forward. So like we've been texting our guests for 3 years. We look at technology again, really important here. We look at technology as a tool for team members to use to reduce transaction, not necessarily replace people and human interaction at the hotel, and remove team members. So utilizing really your own AI, that's the other thing. I think a lot of people don't realize you don't want to use an open AI. You don't want to use ChatGPT with your own information. We have Chat Pineapple. It is a closed AI, and it only communicates with our employees. It does not We do not communicate with guests with it, but it can send and resend guest confirmation emails. It can generate guest arrival reports. It can fetch guest data out of our CRM for a team member to look at. It can send parking app links. It can generate draft review responses. Wow. So like, this is what we're using today. This is not Dreamscape. Our team uses those today. Dreamscape is, I want to be able to analyze guest reviews with a verbal cue. What are the top 3 things guests most like about the Maxwell Hotel? Chat Pineapple, tell me.
That's pretty cool.
That's interesting, right? That's compelling. And then, you know, really looking at anything around large data. How do we digest large data and turn it into something that's compelling for human beings and we're capable of comprehending? There's so much data out there. And I think that's why we talk about actionable guest data. Yeah. That's why so many hoteliers haven't been able to do something with it, because it becomes overwhelming. And then I'll leave you with my big idea. We're not doing it yet, but I've got my my tech people working on it, which is eliminating SOPs. Think of a world in the future when there are no more SOPs and all of your knowledge base, all of your intellectual property is in your own AI. Little Chat Pineapple can tell me, how do I check a guest in? Or what's our bereavement policy? Or any other question I might ask it about Pineapple.
Wow. I love it. That's absolutely incredible. And make sure you join Dina and I tomorrow on Friday Night Audit, 5 o'clock Eastern time on LinkedIn. Kim, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think so many amazing just perspectives have been shared, and 2 that really stand out to me, actually both from Dina. One, technology should be supplemental and it should be supportive to your staff, right? It should empower your staff to help make the guest day even better. Technology does not exist to replace the people on site, but to empower them and to support them and to create supplemental ways for them to access information that they need and content that they need to enhance that guest day. So I love that. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I hope everyone who is listening has, is that this is not about technology taking over. This is about technology being a resource and a way to supplement the information that your staff and your workforce already have, and the EQ that they bring to the table to make that guest experience amazing. The second thing was, you know, Dina was saying, like, look, we've had access to all this data, and that's on us to make sure that we put in the technology to take advantage of it. I would just correct that by saying that's on you as the hoteliers and your tech advisors, right? So lean heavily on your tech partners to say, how can I take all of this data and turn it into something meaningful for my hotel? There are so many great vendors out there that can offer insights and sort of, you know, next generation solutions that can help take that data and turn it into actionable ways to customize notifications, which is what we were talking about at the time. Talk to your guests in a way that really resonates with them and makes them feel seen, like they're this individual person that's checked in, not just another guest getting the standard push notification. So anyway, I think, you know, that those are my 2 biggest takeaways from today. Tech is a supplement. It's a way to empower your workforce. And 2, you know, that's on us as hoteliers and vendor partners to work together on how to make that happen.
So I guess the question goes out to all of you out there. What kind of future do you want for your hotel? One that's empowering humanity to interact with other people while also simultaneously gleaning that information that can help you empower those guest experiences, help you make more money, help you think about revenue per available customer out there, as opposed to just trying to get all blobs of stuff happening and wish for luck. I think all of you want to adapt to technology and utilize that AI in smart ways that are going to help people connect with people. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. What a great one this has been. Thanks to DirecTV for supporting this event. And I know you're going to want to read all about the summary of this in the November issue of Hotel Business. It's also going to be on LinkedIn and Twitter and at hotelbusiness.com. And of course, you can check out the audio version of this at the No Vacancy podcast feed. And as I like to say, wherever you get your shows. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time in another hot topic. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye.